So in this screencast, we're going to look at manipulating arrays. So we're going to look at things like accessing the data at a specific index in an array. We're going to change the value at a specific index, and we're going to do something like add the first two values in an array. So this is to supplement what we've already looked at in arrays, and it's just to do some very specific things. So we'll just look at a project within makecode.com and see how we can do these things. So we have a new project in here. I'm just going to get rid of the forever block. And in the onStart, I'm going to create a list. So I'm going to go to variables. I'm going to make a variable called list. Click OK. And I'm going to set list to. And if I go to my advanced and my arrays, sorry, that was open there. If I go to advanced and my arrays block here, I can create a numeric array. So remember, I can just add in extra values. You've already seen this. And in this case, I'm putting in 3 values. I'm now going to go into the math block, and I'm going to pull across the numeric block, the number, and go again and pull the number in again. So this time I'm going to put in 3, 8, and 4 as my 3 values. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, when the A button is pressed, I'm going to show the number, and the number I'm going to show is the value at index 2 within the array. So if I go to arrays and show the get value here, so I've got list get value, that seems to pull out there, get value at, and I'm going to get the value at index 2. So when I press the A button, it shows me 4, which is the value at index 2. So that's just the very basic accessing a value within a particular index of our array. The next functionality I want to look at is I'm going to go for button B pressed. And in this case, what I'm going to do is, when the B button is pressed, I'm going to take the value at index 1, I'm going to add 3 to it, and then I'm going to put that value back into index 1. So how are we going to do all of that? Well, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. So we could just do it all in one. So if I go to arrays here, and you see you've got set value at, so I can pull that out. So I can say list set value at, and I'm going to change that index to 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the math block, and I'm going to get the plus. And then I'm going to go into the arrays block again, and I'm going to get the value at 0. So here what I'm saying is, I'll just make this a little bit smaller so you can see it. So you can see the whole thing. So here I'm saying set the value at index 1 to, well, what am I setting it to? I'm setting it equal to get the value at index 1, which is 8, and I'm going to add 3 to it. So now when I do that, it should have the value 11 in there. And just to test it, I'm going to go to basic. I'm going to do show number. And I'm actually going to show the number that is at index 1 within there. So get value at 1. So now when I press the B button, it should show me 11, which it's showing. And if I press it again, it should show me 14 because it's taking me 11, adding 3 to it and showing 14. If I add 3 more, it's getting me 17. 3 more gets me 20. So every time I press the B button, it's just going to take the value that's already there, add 3 to it, and put it back in there again. So this is quite a slick way of doing it. You could actually just use a temporary storage as a number, get the value, then add 3 to it, and then put it back in again. But this is just, you know, an easier way of doing that. So hopefully that should help. And then the final thing I'm going to do is, when the A and B buttons are pressed, I'm going to add the values in index 1 and index 2 within the array, and just show that total. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to call it total. And then I'm going to go to input, and I'm going to pull across the on button A pressed, and I will change the A to A plus B. So now you can see it's not grayed out anymore. And then I'm going to set the total to. So what am I going to set the total to? Well, I'm going to set it equal to, and I need to add two things together. So I've got my math. I'm going to pull across my plus, and the first thing I'm going to set it to is I'm going to set it equal to itself plus the value at index 0, and then I'm going to set it equal to itself plus the value at index 1. So here, what I mean by that is I'm just going to pull across total and drop it into the first block here, and then I'm going to go down to arrays again, and I'm going to get the value at index 0. So what's going to happen the first time around is that the total is going to be, and I'm just going to make sure here, I'll go back up to variables, and I'm going to set in the on start, I'm going to set total to 0, just to make sure that it's created as 0 to start off with. So my total is 0, so I'm going to say set total to that total plus the value at index 0, so it's going to set it equal to 0 plus 3 here, and so total is now going to be 3. I'm going to just show that number, and again this is just for testing purposes so I can see what's actually happening, and the number I'm going to show is total, and then I'm just going to duplicate this code. I'm going to set the total to total plus, and this time I'm going to get the value at 1, and then I'm going to show that number again. So what should happen here, let's pull this back a little bit. I'm just going to pull that down there. So what should happen is the total should show us 3, because remember it starts off as 0 plus 3 is 3, and then the second time around the total should show as 3 plus 8 is 11, so it should give us an 11 here. I'm just going to put in a little pause here so that we can see what's actually happening, so that it doesn't run too quickly into each other. 1 0 0 0. So I'm just going to wait for 1 second there. So I'm going to restart it just to make sure everything is set. So remember, when I restart it, I've got 3, 8 and 4 in my array. So when the A button is pressed, I'm going to get the value of 2, so it's showing me 4. When the A and B buttons are pressed together, it should show me the total of, first off it's going to show me a 3, and then it's going to show me an 11. So there's my 3, and then a second later there's my 11. So that's working as it should be. So what I'm showing you here is how do you add, maybe two values within an array together and see how that works. And then remember, the B button just shows us the value in index 2, which is the 8 plus the 3, which is 11. Press it again, it shows me 14, and so on. So once I have my testing done, I can actually take out that first show number there. That was really just for testing purposes to make sure my total was working correctly. And actually I can take out my pause as well. I'll get rid of that. Pull back in the set total. So here it's setting total to the value at index 0 really effectively. Then it's adding to that the value at index 1. So that's going to give me my 3 plus 8 is 11. When I click on that, there's my 11 as I expect it to be. So hopefully this should help you with manipulating the values within the array, showing them, changing the values, rewriting it back in again.